Hi, my name is Kyle. I'm 19. I make my clients multiple six figures every single month. I personally make over $30,000 a month in revenue. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how focusing on the theory of constraints, which has been made popular by loads of other business people. But I just want to reiterate it here in terms of how it's helped me and how I've deployed it for my clients to get them a lot of success. Obviously, as you can see on screen right now, the proof for all the different clients I've succeeded for, generated lots of good stuff for, made them a lot of money. But yeah, no, so in this video, I'm going to basically walk through the theory of constraints and how just doubling down and really understanding this concept will be the biggest way for you to grow in your current business right now. So just to give a bit of background on how I actually first learned about this, it was, I think 2024. I had just come out with like a fresh marketing course a couple months before. That was rubbish, but I then started watching these YouTube videos and I saw this theme come up a lot. And I was like, okay, so if I have like basically no customers, what is the one thing I need to do to get more customers? Like as a business, the first thing you need to solve for is getting customers, because if you have no one to sell to, it doesn't matter how good your product is, there's no one to sell it to. So the basic idea of this is your business will only grow as much to its constraint. So for example, if leads are your constraint, so that means there's not enough people who are interested in what you're selling, that'll be your limiter. So if you only have 1,000 leads, that means you can only grow up to a point where you only have 1,000 leads and you can sell X amount of people, if you take it around the close rate, booking rate, all that type of stuff. But another constraint could be churn, which is very common for like agencies, for coaching communities, because people have to churn, right? There's only so you help them to a point and then they don't need your help anymore. That's the whole point. So churn could be your constraint. So you might have to solve for that, get that lower down, and then your business will grow again. So basically your business will grow like this and then it'll stall. And when it stalls, there's a certain point where, and this is the exact point where you now need to think about what is stopping me from growing. And you constantly have to be thinking, what is the main thing I need to focus on? Main thing I need to focus on. Main thing I need to focus on. And as a business, unless you're like $1 billion in revenue, every single person has a limited amount of resources. So this could be time, money, the team you have. So like even expertise. Every single business that's like small to medium size is limited by the amount of resources they have. They can't deploy them all. So you have to hyper focus on choosing the correct problem to solve. And the correct problem to solve is the problem that hits a lot as well. If you do nothing else but solve this, it will solve 9, 10 other problems in your business, and it will mean you will grow to an entirely new level. So for example, for me, the main thing I want to do in order to get to that 100K a month, I think you have to build a brand. And in these videos, I'm demonstrating expertise on what I know so that you can go out, use it, deploy it, make more money, and think, oh, okay, maybe he knows what you're talking about. That's the whole thing. Because with a brand, show up rate doesn't matter. Booking call rate doesn't matter, because you'll have more demand than supply. And it goes like this on a curve. When demand grows, the desire for the supply increases. But if supply stays constant and demand keeps increasing, you have to raise the price to basically lower the demand. And then there's an equilibrium point where you are booked out and selling at the highest price. There we go. So that's what supply and demand is. But this is the whole point of the theory of constraints. You have to use all of your limited resources and focus it on the one problem that if you solve this, it will basically smash everything else out of the water. Now, when I'm looking at the theory of constraints, the best way to view it is like a pipeline like this. I feel like this makes it the easiest, but if you really want to like excel and get to another level, you kind of have to think outside the box a bit. Because if you look at it this linearly, you'll get into the habit of optimizing for very small tweaks, very small improvements. Like, oh, maybe I can get my close rate from 20% to 30%, which isn't a bad idea. Like this is a metric that I would definitely try to improve. That would be a 50% increase, which means your business would grow by 50%. That isn't a bad thing to focus on. But let's say your close rate is 20%, show up rate's 60%, which is not good. You want at least to be at 80. let's say you're running ads and your click-through rate's like 0.5%, which isn't good either. It should be at least 2, but you got all these problems. If Messi, and if you don't know who Messi is, that's probably a shame, but he's a good football player, one of the best, or like Ronaldo. If they dropped a coaching course on how to get good at football, do you think they'd have a show-up rate issue? Do you think they'd have a book call issue? Do you think they'd have a close issue? No, they wouldn't. They'd make so much money. The reason is because they have a brand, they have that image. And that is why I think it's obviously one of the most valuable things. But I think a good brand, personally, for me, is one that's got a lot of trust behind it. Now, not only is it relatable, you like the individual, but there's a lot of trust. You know that they can help you get to where you want to get to. And everyone has obviously different ways they want to get to. Things it could be like 100k a month, 10k a month. It could be retire their family. It could be maybe work less. It could just be happier. Relationship issues. There's many different dreams people have. But in the theory of constraints view, what would allow that business to acquire more customers could be a brand. Like that is a 10x play. It takes longer time to build it, but it will solve many of our issues. Another thing could just be if you just spend 10 times more. So let's say you have decent metrics. So let's say your CPM $20, right? Pretty average. Click-through rates 2%, and then they go to a landing page. Let's say 10% book calls, right? And then show rate is like, so the number of live calls you have is like 80%, and the close rate is like 30%. So all decent metrics. And in this scenario, let's just say this means you make 100k, right? Let's say to make 100k, you sell something worth 10k 10 times, to keep it really simple, okay? If these are your metrics and you want to get to 1 million a month, and you have all these metrics, but you're only spending, let's say, 10k a month on ad spend, okay? To get to 1 million a month, now you also do have to account for a 20% like waste when you increase ad spend. You should start spending 100k a month. That's how I view it. Now that can be scary, but realistically, you should probably spend in like 120k a month, because that 100k a month was your current old revenue. So that is basically the theory of constraints. If we spent 10 times more, we'll get to 1 million. We don't have to do anything else. Just click into Ads Manager and add 2 extra zeros. Now, or I guess 1 extra zero, sorry. Now, in this scenario, it may not be that simple as just increasing spend, because with 1 million a month, that now means, and if you're keeping the same price point, there'll be 100 calls on the calendar. So if there's 100 calls on the calendar and the salesperson can only take around like 70, then you're gonna have to hire another closer. So some of the things you didn't have to solve for is hiring. So if your constraint is demand, so it's either supply or demand, you can't supply all the customers that want to pay you, or there isn't enough customers who want to pay you, but you have the capability to, then you have to hire, if it's a supply constraint, to increase supply. That could be one of the things that you need to do, so that if you do solve for your theory of constraint, which let's say is demand, and then you 10 times ad spend, way more people come through, you have 100 booked calls, that means you need to hire new sales closers. This also means you're maybe taking on, 10 times the people, which means you're gonna have to hire fulfillment as well. With this extra cash flow and so much more running through your business, you might need to get like legal operations set up, and account and like build out your finance team more. See, there's many second order effects of solving your theory of constraint, but if you just spend more money, there'll be, for example here, 900k more you have. And with that 900k, it's way easier to hire people. It's way easier to hire people for your fulfillment teams, way easier to hire legal and finance experts. And this is the whole point of it, and why it's so important to understand this concept. Like for me, for example, when I first started out, I had no customers, right? So I spent 4 hours per day cold calling. And the way I'd kept it, I was listening to music and I watching YouTube videos. So thanks to those who made me get through that. But yeah, so I've ended up doing over 10,000. I did get a couple of customers through that, but then I found more leverage and better ways to do it, and which you do as you get better in sales and along your journey. That was my constraint, no customers, and then I then solved for that. Then my next issue was a show-up rate issue. So then I have to solve for that. And then I go out and buy training materials, mentorship, so you can actually solve for that constraint. And that is just business again and again and again and again. That is the whole thing. You start something, you get past the first stage, now you're on the next stage. What do you need to know? What experts do you need to seek out? What help do you need so that you can solve this next constraint? Like a lot of businesses I jump into as well. I'll come in, look at all their metrics, and then think, okay, your main constraint is you're just not spending enough. Let's spend more. Sometimes it's as easy as that. And then they grow. And then I'm like, wow, thank you. So a lot of the times, really, I don't know why I'm doing a one, but it's limiting beliefs. You can be the constraint. All too common. Really, really, really common. The actual founder, the person in charge, they can be the constraint because of their limiting beliefs. Oh, I don't want to charge more. I feel like this is wrong. Don't ever say you feel like. Let's look at the data, look at the metrics, make a decision. So yeah, to summarize, theory of constraints. One of the most important concepts in business and growing a funnel and improving a funnel and actually improving your whole business as a whole, right? So a lot of B2B coaches, communities, a lot of people I work with, this is a thing I think about a lot. And the one thing we need to do that will grow them 10x. And sometimes it's just taking bigger risks. That's the thing with the limiting beliefs. It can really stop you from taking bigger risks because at every single stage you have to take risks, which I would consider is in taking action without a known outcome. For example, when you gamble, it's very easy to see. You take an action, but you don't know if you're going to win or lose. In business, it could be you spend 10 times more on ads. You can assume metrics might say the same. It might increase by 20%. They could rapidly fall off because you've completely saturated that audience now. So now you have to make new creatives as well. So there's so many variables and lenses you have to think through when you are growing your business. But the theory of the constraints is the most important thing. And you should not be spending your time learning or thinking about anything else except this core problem. Solving for it and then having the systems around it to make sure you can grow. Cool. Hope you guys found this valuable.